So welcome to this commentary on the Yogasutra that is based on yoga as it was or is intended to be, as a means for you to recognize your true self, as a pathway to liberation, and as a helpful support on this journey, this seeking journey that you are on towards knowing what you essentially are. And this text is one of the texts that is very, very helpful and supportive for you on your journey. And hopefully this commentary, obviously, also. And so the sutta that I'm talking about is now in the second chapter, which is the chapter on practice. And it is the second sutra in the second chapter. And in the first chapter, he talked about samadhi, which is you abiding as the self. What we would nowadays term you abiding as awareness, you staying with the self, you remembering yourself, you staying in intense union with the self. And the second chapter is such a helpful chapter, and that's why it's also termed as practice. And what he's also talking about now in the second sutra is it is a yoga of action chapter. It means it is for all of you that are actually interested in discovering yourself, remembering your divinity, remembering your true self, but at the same time, as this self-realization hasn't happened yet, you are confronted with your life, you are confronted with your mind, you are confronted with reality as it is. And so the second chapter is about that. Like yoga, that's why it's called yoga of action. To make a to form an alleyway for you at this present now to recognize the self, yes, but also to reduce the inherent suffering that is right now keeping you, maybe your focus also, away from you being able to actually focus on this ultimate discovery of yourself. Focus your intentionality, your orientation, your life on it. And the second sutra says that the goal of this chapter, the goal of this yoga of action is these two things. It is to actually focus on samadhi, abide as awareness. This abiding as awareness, what you practice, is still actually allowing the separate self to exist. You're just practicing remembrance, basically. You're placing your attention already on the self. And the second part, he says, about this chapter and what these practices are meant to do and what these purification methods are meant to do, is to reduce the felt suffering, reduce the causes of your afflictions, reduce your thought patterns, reduce your ways, your mechanisms of your mind. And so all these, that's why in the first sutra he already says these purification practices, what reduces your momentum, what reduces your thirst for more experience, what helps with this. And so for many people the suffering can be such a great catalyst actually to turn towards what is before suffering, to turn away from the contents of your mind, to turn away from the experience of suffering. The suffering can be such a catalyst because it can be so tremendous that the experience of it can be so tremendously horrifying, that this distance or the detachment to experience that is already your natural state, that is already actually always the case from the point of awareness, from who you actually are. This kind of suffering can catalyze already actually an opening towards what you are, because the detachment that is so difficult for a lot of people to to actually practice witnessing, practice being detached from experience, thoughts, sensations, everything. It can be catalyzed through suffering. But on another note, someone is very caught up in their mind and caught up in the stories of their mind and what they believe themselves to be. An assumed sense of self that is determined through your story, through what happened to you, through what you have been indoctrinated, through an idea or a sense of self that is separate from this world, through a sense of self that projects a world that is also separate from itself. All these false interpretations, actually, these false perceptions, and also the ignorance of that, of your own divinity, of your own limitlessness, of what you actually are. This kind of ignorance can be so strong that you reject actually the idea of truly finding out what you are, that you don't want to, that the mind's idea or the mind has such a strong filter that your actual birthright to discover your true self is so strongly veiled. And so those kind of practices that remove this filter for you, remove your own sense whether this is possible for you in this life, whether you are worthy enough for this in your life, whether you can liberate yourself from this false idea of self, whether this is actually your path, whether you should invest more in the next experience, whether happiness isn't actually found in the next whatever. All these kind of false mechanisms or structures that are also just artifacts within the collective mind. They don't need to be taken on, and to cut through them, to not believe in them, to reduce their grasp on you is also part of this chapter, and the practices and suggestions he gives to come to a pathway and a way for you to recognize what you are that is not exclusive to certain people only, or to to a certain group, even to a certain philosophy. It's not it is not restricted. To know yourself doesn't belong to a religion. It doesn't belong to a tradition. Doesn't even belong to a philosophy or a spiritual pathway. Doesn't belong to a certain country or certain culture. It is everyone's birthright, and can be discovered by you. And you wouldn't be listening to this commentary if it isn't also part of your calling, part of why you are here, and not to discard this possibility for you, but to know there is a way for you to recognize yourself, to realize your true self. And also, while you are on this pathway, ways how to reduce your experience of suffering, your felt suffering, because this is also what you can know. There is suffering, but then there is also the experience of it, like what you make out of it, how much it becomes an identity for you, how much it determines what you think, how much it determines what you project out, how much it occupies your orientation, your purpose, why you are here. And so the second sutta says that the goal of this yoga of action, the goal of this second chapter is to have your focus on samadhi, which is to abide as the self, and to reduce your afflictions, your personal suffering, your personal storylines, what you are in currently feeling, that actually also prevents you then from focusing more strongly on realizing what you are. So it is a beautiful, powerful chapter that I'm very excited to share with you. Thank you for being here. Namaste.